Hello everyone, welcome to Pocket Japan. You've come to the right place to learn Japanese the right way. It's my first lesson in 5 years, so hopefully this is gonna go well. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get started. If you've seen my past lessons, you'd know that we've covered absolute basics like the Japanese writing system. I told you how to write, or I showed you how to write hiragana, katakana, and I told you about kanji. I also explained to you the copulate to be, as in A wa bi desu. This is that, so to speak. And I also showed you how to conjugate it into its negative and past tense. Lastly, I showed you verbs, both the formal mas form and the informal form, the short form, so to speak. And I told you about the 5 sound endings of both the ru verb group and the u verb group and how to conjugate them. This leaves us with a couple of big grammatical holes to fill in order to learn Japanese, and I think that the big hole that we need to tackle today is the adjectives. Today we'll cover the 2 main kinds of adjectives, being I-adjectives, known as keioushi in Japanese, and Na-Adjectives, known as keioudoshi. As with verbs, so the u and the ru group, you can also distinguish 2 main kinds of adjectives, as I said before, I-adjectives and Na-adjectives. I-adjectives are words ending on the sound I, as in tanoshii, omoshiroi, fukai, kowai, and they have set conjugation rules. Na-adjectives are words usually written just by kanji, where you need to add na at the end to place this adjective in front of a noun. More details will follow, but let's start with the I-adjectives. Just like in English, you can put an adjective in front of a noun, as in a cute cat, or you can put the adjective at the end of a sentence, as in the cat is cute. I'll devote this video to placing the adjective at the end of the sentence, as in the teacher is rude, and the next video will teach you how to put I and Na adjectives in front of the noun, as in the rude teacher, as the topic is too great to cram into one lesson. Also be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I will give you some of the most handy adjectives in daily Japanese conversation. I would like you to think of I-adjectives as an adjective stem followed by an I sound, and this I is always written with a hiragana symbol. This is how you can easily tell it apart and recognize it from other things that are not I-adjectives, of course. Some big examples of I-adjectives would be kowai, which means scary, okii means big, tanoshii, which means fun, atarashii, which means new, and omoshiroi, which means interesting. These are just 5 examples. The conjugation of these I-adjectives is actually very similar to verbs in the short form, so if you're familiar with that, then this is not going to be too difficult for you. The affirmative present is actually just the way you would find the word in the dictionary, so it's just the stem plus I. So kowai still stays the same, kowai, which means scary. The past tense affirmative would be the stem minus the I, so just the stem, followed by katta. So you would get something like kowakatta. Kowai becomes kowai, kowa, the stem plus katta, kowakatta. Then to get the present negative, you would again take the stem and you add kunai at the end. So you get something like kowakunai, ookikunai, tanoshikunai, omoshirokunai. And then finally, to make it into the negative past tense, instead of kunai, it's kunakatta, so you get the stem plus kunakatta, kowakunakatta, ookikunakatta, atarashikunakatta, tanoshikunakatta, etc. Similar to the verbs in the short form, which I explained to you before in a previous video, where you have nai at the end of a verb negation in the present. So for example, the verb to read, yomu, becomes the negative present yomanai, which means to not read. And then if you put it into the past tense, the yomanai becomes yomanakatta, to become a past tense negative. Similarly with this, you also drop the I and add katta at the end of nai, so it becomes nakatta. Hopefully this makes sense to you. You can also choose to add des at the end of this adjective to make it more formal. Now mind you, I'm still only talking about putting the adjective at the end of the sentence, so in this case you can add des if you want. So with friends you can just say neko wa kawaii, eiga wa kowakatta, which means something like the cat is cute, or the movie is scary, or mizu wa fukakunai, the water is not deep. If you want to be more formal, then as I said, you can just add des, so they would become something like neko wa kawaii desu, eiga wa kowakatta desu, mizu wa fukakunai desu. Also, you can use des at the end, but you cannot use da, which is the more informal version of des. I know that I explained it to you in a different video when I was explaining des. You do not use da after an I-adjective in order to make it sound more colloquial. Just use des to make it more formal, or use nothing at all if you want to talk to friends and be informal. Also, be careful when pronouncing I-adjectives, especially the ones ending on shi, like tanoshii or atarashii or kanashii, because there is a double E sound, so you have to be sure to lengthen the pronunciation. Otherwise, something like Pokemon wa tanoshii desu, Pokemon is fun, would become something like Pokemon wa tanoshii desu, which is completely wrong, and I doubt that Japanese people will understand you. Then lastly, you need to remember that you should never conjugate the word des after the I-adjective when you put it at the end of a sentence like this. You put the adjective itself into its past tense or negative, so you only conjugate the adjective and you do not conjugate the des in this case. So the correct past tense of the sentence, the movie was interesting, would be 映画は面白かったです. 映画 means movie. Wa is the particle, which indicates the topic of the sentence, and omoshirokata is the past tense of omoshiroi. So the movie was interesting. What would be completely incorrect is either saying something like 映画は面白いでした, in which case you only conjugate des in the past tense. It's completely wrong, don't do that. Or you say something like 映画は面白かったでした, in which case you're conjugating both the adjective and the des at the end. It's completely wrong, so when you use I-adjectives, you conjugate the I-adjective and you just put des at the end. Okay, now hopefully that's still not too difficult for you. I know that there are quite a lot of rules that I'm explaining right now. I'll move on to the na-adjectives when you put them at the end of the sentence. Rest assured that the na-adjectives are a lot easier when it comes to using them like this. There are less conjugations, so... Okay, I'll be back in a minute. Na-adjectives completely differ from I-adjectives in the fact that they do not have a hiragana I at the end, and they're usually written completely in kanji. Some of the most popular examples, or the most used examples, are words like genki na, shizuka na, ijiwaru na, suki na. Genki means, it's difficult to translate, but I guess in good health or lively, something like that. Shizuka means quiet or calm. Ijiwaru means mean or ill-spirited, something like that. And suki means loved. There are na-adjectives that do have an I sound at the end, but this is usually because it's actually just a kanji word. That's why kanji is so important. So words such as yume, yume na, teinei na, kirei na, shitsurei na, tokui na, shinpai na, aimai na. The meaning will be written in the video. I'm not going to go over every single word and its meaning. The only big one that is worth mentioning, that's easily confused as an I-adjective, is the word kirai. Kirai na hito, or something like that. Kirai is a na-adjective despite having a hiragana I at the end. You conjugate it as a na-adjective, which is as follows. The present positive, when you put the na-adjective at the end of the sentence, mind you, is the adjective, so the na-adjective plus da or des, depending on how formal you want to be. Da is when you're talking to your friend, so you can say genki da, or you can say genki desu when you're talking to someone like your teacher. In the past tense is just des conjugated in the past tense, so it's genki datta, so datta or deshita, genki deshita. The negative would be, well, the negative present for now, is the adjective plus janai or dewa arimasen, or anything in between. So dewa nai is also an option. Dewa nai desu. You can be quite free in how you want to phrase this, depending on how formal you want to be. One day I might devote a lesson to that. And then lastly, the past negative is, again, just the adjective plus the past negative of the verb des, or the copula des, which I explained earlier, so it's janakatta. Genki janakatta. Genki de wa arimasen deshita is the more formal way to say it. That's how you do it. So if you put the adjective at the end of the sentence, and you make sentences like, the man is rude, otoko no hito wa shitsurei desu, or the man was rude, shitsurei deshita, shitsurei janakatta, shitsurei de wa arimasen deshita. It's actually quite easy when you use a na-adjective. You just have to know which adjective is a na-adjective and which adjective is conjugated like an I-adjective. But either way, this is how you put adjectives at the end of a sentence, be them I-adjectives or na-adjectives. You just have to figure out which one is which, and usually you can recognize them quite easily. Now I'll go onwards with the next part of this lesson, which is just giving you some big examples, because how are you going to use this lesson if you don't know what kind of words you can use with the grammar that I just explained. So let's go over some of the most popular ones and some of the ones that you really need to know, especially if you ever want to go to Japan, be it as a traveler, as a tourist, or if you ever want to live in Japan. You're going to need a lot of these words, so I'll teach them to you now. I'll start with the I-adjectives. By the way, you can find lots of these lists online, so you can just look for more complete lists if you ever want to. But some of the I-adjectives, some of the important ones, like colors, are aoi, which means blue, akai, which means red, akarui, which means light or bright, atatakai, which means warm. Atsui, which means hot. Abunai, which means dangerous. Amai, sweet. Yoi, or ii, which means good. Isogashii, busy. Itai, painful. Oishii, delicious. Ookii, big. Osoi, late. Hayai, fast. Omoi, heavy. Omoshiroi, interesting. Karai, hot or spicy. Karui, light. Etc, etc. I mean, there are so many. I'll actually put a link to some of the most basic vocabulary in the description, but these are just some examples. So you can make your own sentences. You can say, the animal is dangerous. Animal would be dobutsu, and dangerous is abunai. Then you can just say, dobutsu wa abunai desu. Or the animal was dangerous would be dobutsu wa abunakatta. This is, you can just, look up some lists and try and figure out how to conjugate it yourself. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. Now let's move on to some of the most common na-adjectives. Some of the most crucial na-adjectives that I can think of off the top of my head would be words like liked, suki, famous, yume, pretty or beautiful, kirei, polite, teinei, disliked, kirai, quiet, shizuka, free as in time-wise, you can be free, hima, lively, nigiyaka, useful or convenient, bendy, healthy, genki, and this is a very famous one. Okay or fine would be daijoubu. Good or skilled at something is jouzu, and the opposite, not skilled at something or bad at something, is heta. Unpleasant, ya. I guess these are some of the big ones that you can probably start off by learning. You can find lots of lists online. I will put a list to a very good website down below, so you can just look it up if you want to learn more. So just to put it into another example sentence or two, that would be, this video is very handy. このビデオはとても便利です. Your Japanese is good. 日本語は上手です. I am not free. 私は暇じゃないです. Etc, etc. Now this concludes today's lesson on adjectives. Of course, the next lesson is going to be part 2 because I didn't have enough time to do the entire topic justice. Now at least we know how to put adjectives at the end of a sentence and make some kind of A wa B des structure. Hopefully this was easy to follow, and if you have any tips or advice or questions, anything at all, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, because I'm just starting out this channel and I want to teach people and I want to reach out to people. So please help me reach an audience, and if you feel like my videos are handy and can help people that you know, then don't hesitate and just share it with them. Maybe I can help other people along the way as well. Now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next lesson.